Welcome to the Women of Fort Mill, South Carolina. I'm Kelly, mom of 2 teenagers, serial entrepreneur, and lover of all things that inspire and empower women. After years of supporting women on their journeys, I'm thrilled to be here to spotlight the powerhouse women who make Fort Mill so special.
And I'm Leah, mom of a very busy toddler and your go-to financial guru for making sense of money and planning for the future. I absolutely love helping women feel confident in their finances. And together, Kelly and I are here to connect you with the stories, tips, and insights that can help you thrive personally and professionally.
Every week, we're inviting you to join us for a quick 20-minute chat with local female business owners, women who are really changing the game here in Fort Mill.
You'll walk away with new ideas, practical advice, and a deeper connection to the community. Whether you're seeking motivation, actionable tips to grow your business, or just a bit of solidarity in the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, you're in the right place.
This is the Women of Fort Mill, South Carolina. Let's dive in and meet the incredible women here in our community.
If you're looking for a way to help your child thrive academically, look no further than Huntington Learning Center in Fort Mill. Led by a former school psychologist and mom who's been through every stage of education, Huntington Fort Mill provides individualized instruction in reading, writing, math, study skills, and test prep for exams like the SAT, ACT, ISEE, GRE, and ASVAB. This summer, they are offering exciting academic mini camps in June and grade-specific readiness camps in July to help students beat the summer slide and head into the school year with confidence. Whether your child's preparing for kindergarten or aiming for a top SAT score, Huntington has a program tailored just for them. And listeners can take advantage of a $75 academic evaluation or $50 summer camps. Connect with the team at 803-548-8070. Follow them on Instagram at HLC Fort Mill SE or visit their Facebook page, Huntington Learning Center Fort Mill. Spots are limited, so don't wait to register.
Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Women of Fort Mill podcast. This is Kelly Hoover, and I am joined today by my incredible co-host, Leah Williams. So excited that we are here today for another episode. We have a special guest who is joining us for our second time. We loved her so much. We were like, you've got to come back and tell us all the things about summer learning. So Joel from Huntington Learning Center is joining us today. And our topic specifically is going to be about summer learning and the importance. So if you've ever wanted to know, like, what you can do for your kids to help them either not regress or get ahead or just kind of keep up with that desire to learn, we have a special treat for you today. So welcome to the podcast again, Joel. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you guys for having me. As always, such lovely ladies.
We're excited today. And so Joel is the owner of Huntington Learning Center. And you guys, there are 2 locations of Huntington. One is in Weddington, but one is right here in our beautiful Fort Mill. And Joel, I think it's important for people to know where you're physically located. So will you tell everyone a little bit about where you are in Fort Mill?
Well, some claim that we are right down from the best barbecue place in the area, Blue Smokehouse. If you ask my husband, he will tell you that's the case. But the bigger landmark would be Catawba Ridge High School. We're less than a mile down from Catawba Ridge High School. And we have been in this location for almost 3 years.
That's great. One of the things personally I think that makes Huntington stand out is the individualized tutoring and the test prep. And one of the things I love so much about you guys is just the proven results. Like, you're all about what is designed specifically for that child and their individual help. So I love it. And then also being able to do things in the center or online, it literally can work for every single family. So those who do not know about Huntington Fort Mill, tell us a little bit more about what you guys offer.
Okay, so there's a lot, and it's very interesting because our primary offerings, and I think that we do every single day, is any subject, reading, writing, math, study skills for pre-K through 12th grade. We do SAT and ACT prep, and then some unknown things that we actually are in the depths of right now is we do prep for the GED, as well as the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, also known as the ASVAB. I actually have 4 conferences this week for people wanting to prep to go into the armed services because you need certain scores for each branch of the military. What you'll see on a daily basis when you come in are our little kids, K through 3, working on those pre-reading skills, filling those gaps if they're older. our fourth graders through middle school, working on any sort of gap that they may have in any subjects. And we also do enrichment. We have a lot of families who are wanting more than what the schools are giving them. And then they also have students that they'd like to possibly be in the gifted and talented programs. So we are doing some preparation for that. And then more and more colleges are going back to test required. So SAT and ACT are really big in terms of preparation. The scores from the Fort Mill School District came out actually right before spring break. So a lot of preparation now, especially for juniors, because they really need to get those scores ready if they're going to do early admissions. And then we do have a lot of 10th graders starting to prep as well.
I know the first time you were on here, Kelly and I were both like, we need to talk for like 6 hours with Jewel, because every parent wants to know we are doing everything that we possibly can to set our children up for success. And if we ever feel like they're behind in an area, whether it's peer pressure among parents, we're all just wanting to support them in any way we can. So obviously with summer coming up, it's a pretty substantial gap that these kids are used to being in school and summer camps, and knowing that they'll be able to get not only continued learning, but delivered in a fun manner so that they actually like going to camp. Can you tell us high level, because you have many different camps for different ages, can you give us some insight into how the camps that Huntington's offering can help support parents and their goal of helping their kids have a fun summer, but also continuing their learning?
Absolutely. And it's so interesting that you say that, because just yesterday, my daughter, I have an 8-year-old second grader who thinks she's 16, like your girls, Kelly. We get a Google form from the school asking questions about what would you like in a teacher next year? And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, she's going to third grade. Everything changes. And so I'm just thinking to myself, okay, every summer I put together something for her, and our babysitter over the summer is a teacher. So it's really helpful. But admittedly, as an educator, we do it for maybe a couple weeks and it just falls apart. And before I talk about the camps, one of the things that is really important is that there's this term called the summer slide. And I once read an article about the summer slide. I can't stand the term. Okay. Now, when we were younger, slides could be negative, right? They were metal. They were hot. We would burn ourselves. Now they're fun. So the term summer slide, I don't think we need to come up with something else, but that's not my job. But logistically, our kids are out of school for anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks consistently. And that term summer slide comes from the idea that they go backwards. And then when they enter school, if they're not where they need to be, they either have to catch up or they get further and further behind. When children aren't actively engaged in some sort of learning activities over the summer, studies show that they can drop up to 2 grade levels in reading in just that short time. So whether you take advantage of camps, whether you try really hard to set up a learning plan for your child like me during the summer and then it goes out the window, I definitely encourage everyone to do something. Our summer camps this year are going to be great fun. We are doing 2 camps that are geared for rising first through 6th graders. The first one's called Measure Up, and it's going to be hands-on and very student-driven. We're going to look at team building, focusing on things like measurements that we can apply to the real world, like through cooking, different STEM challenges, and then something that our students don't get to do every day, and that's real-world problem solving. Then we have something called Think, Create, and Solve. And this is going to be focused more on reading, but we're also going to throw in some fun with money, because I still kind of laugh at my second grader who knows what each piece of money is with no concept of how much things cost, of course. But we need to learn how to do that. We all have debit cards and stuff, but we still need to know how to make change, because what if that's something that we do for a living, or we have to do math involving money? But specifically reading comprehension, the ability to follow directions, not just in a classroom setting, like get in line, grab your lunch, things of that nature, but the ability to follow directions in terms of what is this assignment asking you to do? Okay, I'm getting ready to do a 4th and 5th grade study skills presentation at an elementary school. And that's one of the things that we're talking about. Like, what do you need to do this assignment, and what are the directions, and how do you break it down? Also, cause and effect, which is a great need in reading comprehension, and then some creative writing. So everything will be very hands-on with our teachers. Also, something that goes back to that summer slide is readiness. And we do live in a competitive world, Leah. We want our kids reading before they go into kindergarten. Well, that's when they're supposed to learn to read. But we are doing a series of camps for readiness, primarily for confidence building as children go into these grades, but it's for kindergartners, first graders, and second graders. And they are grade specific. We'll focus on very specific skills needed as you enter those grades. So it's not that you were looking to get your child ahead, but we're looking for them to be ready for everything that comes their way. So we have kindergarten readiness that's going to look at letter recognition, phonemic awareness, early math skills, and some social emotional readiness too. First grade refresh camp. I didn't come up with that title, but any of the skills that are needed. We need those reading comprehension skills, review all of the phonics, foundational math skills, and working with sentence writing. And then second grade boost, we're going to do working on reading fluency and comprehension, math skills, including those all important word problems, which I will tell you as an educator, especially when we're looking at Common Core, can be very hard for second graders to grasp. We'll also look at vocabulary, sentence structure, and do more creative writing in the second grade boost camp. The goal is for them to be prepared to walk in the door and also to keep away that dreaded summer slide. I honestly wish that we were doing a third grade camp for my child. For all of these camps, there's a lot. We have one preview light page, and our Facebook and Instagram page has this on there. QR codes will take you to all of the different camp options, and it'll list the specific weeks, the cost, as well as the times.
That's amazing. Jewel, one of the things especially when my kids were in elementary school and in middle school, although we do still do it in high school, always are doing something for their learning because it's not necessarily about getting them ahead. But what I have seen is when we take the time to invest in our children's education during the summer, and I, like you, if I were doing it myself, I would not be consistent with it. Therefore, I like to pay others to do it, to send them places. But what happens to a child, at least from my experience, is they go into the classroom and yes, they may not know it all, but it's not the first time they're hearing this material. And they feel so much more confident because let's be real, school can be very, very stressful, even in the elementary ages. But as they get older, it can be very, very stressful on children. And when they have a little bit of an edge or they feel confident, they're like, oh yeah, I did that at that camp at Huntington. And this is not the first time that I've heard it. The confidence that leads through is priceless for children because then they're not afraid to raise their hand. They're not afraid that they know answers or that they've heard the material before. I just feel like it's really difficult. People who have not done that before, I want you to know that the value is so incredible. And it's honestly, in my opinion, something that we should do for our children every single summer is really, truly invest. So I love all this that you shared. I know you mentioned how our listeners can connect with you, but what other resources or services that you offer outside of the camps? And if they're interested in these camps or just working with Huntington, how can they connect with you and Huntington Learning Center?
There's multiple ways to connect with us. First, you can just give us a call. We are always ready to answer the phones. You can find everything that we do on our Facebook and Instagram pages. And within those Facebook and Instagram pages, there will be linked to all of those camps. In the summer, we also have extended hours. And so one of the things that we encourage people to do is if you do feel like your child has any gaps, or on the opposite end, if you'd like enrichment, we are doing our academic evaluations. And we would be able to see where your child might have gaps or where we can do enrichment for your child. And then also for rising 11th and 12th graders, a lot of times during the school year, the stress to prepare for the SAT or the ACT is just too great because the demands on our students are very high. So a lot of students really feel less stress preparing during the summer. As a matter of fact, we are in the midst of getting individuals ready to do their prep work over the summer.
So, of course, I'm on the early stage of this, my almost 3-year-old. And I know we talked about this the last time you were on, but Kelly, you mentioned the stress that kids feel. Jewel, you see it all the time. But then, Jewel, you get to see the difference in kids, not only their readiness, but their ability to handle things. I mean, we forget what it's like to be a kid because it seems so long ago. And sometimes I think we just assume all these basic things, comprehension, we've just always known, right? We forget that we had to learn too. So when we're parents, whether we have, our little people or Kelly's and where they're teenagers and have been through every stage, I think it's important for us to almost go back to, okay, what would I have needed as a child? And knowing that there's way more on our kids now than there ever has been. There was some bullying and some stress and a little bit of social media, but not much. So there's just so much that kids have to deal with now that if education can be one of the things that they feel confident about and maybe are even excited about because they're so prepared. Could you share just maybe one example, just in years past? I've seen kids go through camps and maybe seen them at the beginning and then at the end when they were going back to school in the next semester, some of the differences that you saw in these kids who went through the camps.
What you see, it's the confidence piece, because confidence leads to motivation to do well in school. And you have to start that at an early age. And when you see someone who's struggling or doesn't feel prepared to go in and they've done these activities, they've worked in a small group with teachers or even one-on-one, and you see them not understanding something, for example, let's just say what a fact is or a detail in reading comprehension, which is a key piece. And then all of a sudden you walk by and they're pointing out details to a teacher and how it relates to them drawing a conclusion about a story. And this doesn't relate to camp, so I'm sort of talking out of turn, but the emails and the phone calls and the texts that I get from our seniors who are saying, thank you for everything that you've done. I'm going here. I'm going here. I'm going here. We have a wall at each of our centers where everybody ends up going to college. And there's nothing like it. I just got an email the other day from a student who went up over 300 points on his SAT and got into a school that he couldn't have dreamed of. And I have a student who was at risk of having to go to an intensive reading camp over the summer at her school. And right now, she doesn't have to anymore. And logistically, that was going to be hard for the family. And confidence-wise, that was bringing her down. And so as soon as I found out, I went right to the back. And I just was like, you are amazing. Look at all of this hard work and what you're doing.
And that's what I think every mom needs to know, because we try so hard to help our kids. We need to know that they'll make progress, that by making the effort, because, last thing moms need is one more thing to do, but what's on the other side of helping our kids, whether it's through the summer or maybe throughout the school year, just supporting them, like, what does it actually do for them? Because if we know what's on the other side, we will do anything. So thank you for sharing that, because I know it's encouraging, because there are a lot of really discouraged parents out there that just want to help their kids.
100%, Leah. And last night, I go to bed early because I wake up very early, not as early as Kelly, but early. And my daughter was still awake because it's been spring break and we're dreading going back to school. And she's been reading the Owl Diaries, which is a chapter book. It's really cute. And it was time for her to go to bed, but she's like, I want to tell you all about the books that I just finished. And I wanted to go to bed. But the confidence building and small, so if you aren't able to utilize your learning center, it's not the time for you. Those things, sitting down, taking the extra time and listening to what Eva did in the Owl Diaries builds that confidence and creates more motivation for her to read. Things of that nature. There's so many small ways that you can do that at home. I just want to encourage people. The National Assessment of Educational Progress came out earlier this year, and our kids aren't where they need to be. And we want them to be where they need to be when they decide what their next steps are after high school. And just keep an eye on that confidence and motivation, because you don't want them to get to high school or even middle school and they're like, I don't really want to do this. And then they get behind.
Jewel, we need you. So many of us do. We are so grateful that you came back on, because anything that has to do with children is just such a big part of our life as parents. And I think any valuable resources that we can leverage is really important for us. All of my mom friends that have kids that are a little bit older than mine, I'm like, what's the plan for summer? And they're like, I got 90 camps set up. Sometimes summer is even more stressful. So to know that there's a valuable resource through the summer into the next semester is amazing. So everyone, check out Huntington Learning Center. Jewel is just a huge resource. Clearly, you can tell she's passionate about education, give them a call if you have a question. Just learn more. They have a great presence on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, or just, old school it. Pick up the phone, call, get the information you need. And Jewel, thank you again for being on. Thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in this week. Jewel, I know you have a special to share with all of our listeners as well. Can you share what you're offering to our podcast listeners?
Yes. So a couple different specials. So the first one is with our summer camps. Anyone who registers online, and then we'll speak to them regarding payment, would get $50 off of any of the summer camps, which is something that I love when we get those types of specials. And then for any of our services, for Learning Center, which is K through 12 reading, writing, math, and study skills, and then any of our test prep, our assessment and conferencing is valued at $200, and listeners would get that for $75.
Oh my gosh. So what do they need to say? They just call in, say, I heard this on the podcast, and anything else that they need to do for these discounts?
They can just say they heard on the podcast. I thought about thinking of something that I might have said and creating like a silly question that they have to answer. But I'm not always the one answering the phone, so that would be awkward if someone else was like, I have no idea what your keyword is. So they can just say that they heard it on the podcast. Everybody in our office will know, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, amazing. And we'll make sure to share it, obviously, in show notes, just to mention podcasts in our newsletter. And if you have not signed up for the newsletter, it's how you'll stay in the know of new guests coming on, resources from amazing women like Jewel. So make sure to sign up for the newsletter. Follow Huntington Learning Center. They are clearly making a difference in the lives of so many families, and we are so grateful to them. We would love a follow. We would love a review. More reviews, followers. It helps us grow this podcast and obviously add more value to our community of women in this great city of Fort Mill. So thank you so much for tuning in, ladies. Give us a follow. Jewel, thank you again. And until next time, have a great day.
If you're looking for a way to help your child thrive academically, look no further than Huntington Learning Center in Fort Mill. Led by a former school psychologist and mom who's been through every stage of education, Huntington Fort Mill provides individualized instruction in reading, writing, math, study skills, and test prep for exams like the SAT, ACT, ISEE, GRE, and ASVAB. This summer, they are offering exciting academic mini camps in June and grade-specific readiness camps in July to help students beat the summer slide and head into the school year with confidence. Whether your child's preparing for kindergarten or aiming for a top SAT score, Huntington has a program tailored just for them. And listeners can take advantage of a $75 academic evaluation or $50 summer camps. Connect with the team at 803-548-8070. Follow them on Instagram at HLC Fort Mill SE, or visit their Facebook page, Huntington Learning Center Fort Mill. Spots are limited, so don't wait to register. Thank you for tuning in to Women of Fort Mill, South Carolina. We love bringing you the stories of these incredible women, and we hope you're walking away with a little extra inspiration every week. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to rate and review us wherever you listen. It helps us reach more amazing women like you and grow our supportive community.
And for all the latest updates, tips, and behind-the-scenes fun, make sure to follow us over on Instagram, Women of Fort Mill Podcast, and tag us to share what inspires you each week. Plus, join our email list to stay connected, be the very first to know about the new episodes and fun events. Thanks for being a part of our Fort Mill family. We'll see you next week with another inspiring woman right here at Women of Fort Mill Podcast.